Welcome to the Coach Speak podcast, built for coaches, by coaches, hosted by Jamie Bolton and Dustin Martin. Sponsored by Ray Crowther, providing the nation's best athletic training equipment since 1932. And R4 Football Systems. Accelerate everything by decoding the game.
Hey guys, what's going on? Dustin Martin here with Jamie Bolton at Coach Speak, and we're excited to get this episode going today with someone out of Alabama. Jamie's going to get into what we're talking about tonight before we get going. Guys, don't forget, Coach Speak Pro is live now. We're doing a big promotion code, Coach Speak 200, to get $200 off. And if you're interested in your staff, we're doing 50% off Staff Pack 50.
All right, guys. Yeah, today's guest is one of the top offensive minds in Alabama high school football. Sam Adams is the head coach at Oxford High School and has built a reputation for explosive passing game concepts, quarterback development, and process-driven offense. His journey started off as an student assistant at Auburn, learning from the offensive minds like Bobby Petrino before building successful offenses at Hillcrest, Tuscaloosa, and now one of Alabama's premier programs at Oxford. Coach, we're excited to dive into offensive identity, quarterback play, and how great passing offenses are actually built. Man, welcome to the show.
Yeah, appreciate you guys having me on. Excited to be here.
Cheers. I think that's in order. I know how to get that one in. So, Coach, if that's too cheesy, just mark it out. But I had to, man. I had to.
You have
one of my favorite ones.
Are you a little hoppy at practice, Coach, being a Sam Adams?
Wow, dude. Dustin,
Sorry,
man, that's like a dad joke. Man, that's bad. That's bad. I know you get it all the time.
It rolls off, man. Like, hey, man, who y'all got tonight? Man, we got Sam Adams, man. Like, it just, Coach, it's awesome. But appreciate you being on, Coach.
That'll get us loosened up and ready to go. But, Coach, man, like, at what point did, like, offense stop becoming about plays and start becoming about process for you?
So, I was pretty fortunate in my growth as a coach to, be under some legendary guys. Started off at the college level as a student assistant and GA at Auburn and Louisville, and there I worked under the first OC I worked under was Noel Mazzoni, then Bobby Petrino. Then Bobby Petrino as a head coach at Louisville. Jeff Brom was on that staff, and then got into high school football after that. And it was with Bob Beatty at Trinity High School in Louisville, Kentucky. He was an offensive genius, and was with John Gross at Spain Park in Alabama, who's a great offensive mind, who's now the head coach at Sanford, and had been on the Clemson staff the last few years with Bob Spire. I was with Bob Spire at North Gwinnett. So, I've always really been with Josh Niblett at Hoover also, who's now at the University of Colorado, who's a great offensive mind as well. So, I've always worked under offensive head coaches pretty much the whole way. And really the things that what we do is kind of we don't necessarily fall real neatly into like one specific name of offense. I don't know if we're air raid. I don't know if we're multiple. I don't know if we're post. I don't know what any of that stuff really means at this point. But I think the thing that we definitely are, we follow a pretty rigid install schedule, and we have a systematic way that we go about practicing everything throughout the year. In those ways, we are very air raid-esque. I'm a huge believer in the 3-day install process. The biggest reason I like that a lot is because in the summer we practice 3 days a week. So it fits in the nice, neat package there. And in season, we look at it like you get 3, real quality full practices in there, being Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, before you kind of review everything on Thursday. And I do think, in addition to just the way that we kind of work the plays of the day, we've had a very formulaic way to lay out the game plan and get reps and script the walkthroughs that go with it as well. And so, I feel like that's been our edge over time, is just the number of reps that we can get during the week. Obviously, during practice is part of that, but the pre-practice walkthrough and then the post-practice walkthroughs later in the week. And we're preparing for the game up until the ball is kicked. I'm not the old saying, the hay's in the barn after Wednesday or Thursday or what. I don't believe that whatsoever. We're not putting in new plays, but we're working plays against as many possible looks as we can get. um, in preparation for Friday night. So, I do think that our guys are pretty locked in by the time the Friday night rolls around because of the way that we prepare all throughout the year, but also during the game week.
Yeah, and I think it's a good point. It's always kind of been cliche, "Hay's in the barn." It's like the work ain't done, boys. We still got a whole day left on Friday that we got to do
Dude,
some work. And
sometimes they hang in the barn until halftime. You
yeah,
gotta make those
Oh,
adjustments,
that is
man. You're
true.
like,
very
now
true.
the hay's in the barn, guys, I promise.
Yeah,
It's like
yeah.
Yeah. We look at it with the way that we have, walkthroughs before practice, and then walkthroughs later on the week. We look at it like we've
Mhm.
got basically 9 practices in a week before a Friday.
Sure.
We
love
just put
that, man.
pads on for 3 of them. What we do on once we finish our Wednesday practice, our next walkthrough, which would be Thursday morning, we're going back through the Monday script of
Mhm.
offensive calls, but we're working them against a different defensive call. So
Yeah.
our Thursday afternoon, that's repeating Tuesday's practice against a different defensive look. Our Friday
Mhm.
morning walkthrough, that's against, that's our Wednesday practice script repeated against another look. And then if we're playing at home and we don't have to get on the bus pretty early, there's a Friday afternoon walkthrough. This is basically anything that I'm panicking about. I mean,
Yeah.
anything that I feel like we haven't hit, and anything that made me sit up straight in the middle of the night on Thursday, that's what we hit on
Yeah.
Friday afternoon.
I've
That's interesting because I feel like I'm more in alignment with you on the way that I think about things. Like, man, nothing's ever really I really never feel settled. I think
No.
Dustin's the opposite. Dustin's like, "Hey, man, after Tuesday, dog, we're good."
it's like I just man, I so Jamie, it's funny. I'll never forget you talked about the air raid coach. So I work with one of my good buddies at Cannon, and man, I'm a rainbow flip flop guy. I always have been. I grew up at the coast, and I don't wear them to practice or anything now. But on game days when school's over, the one thing I like to do is put my flip flops on. So we're walking to pregame, and my buddy Caleb said, "Man, you need to pull a Mike Leach." I said, "What do you mean?" He said, "Well, Mike Leach used to stand out there and tell an assistant to bring him a hot dog when he's talking to the other head coach." And then he'd tell the assistant, "I'm gonna look at you and say, hey, did you put mustard on this?" He said, "Because I want the opponent to think, dude, we're not worried about you at all. Like, I'm over here enjoying a hot dog." So like my buddy kind of put that in my ear.
That's
So,
hilarious.
in high school, I love my high school head coach to death. I still talk to him probably once every other week. But he was just so dialed in that he wasn't worried, but it made us feel as high school
Mhm.
kids like, man, he's worried. Like, so we need to be
Yeah.
worried. So I try to be like a little more even keel because I want the kids to say, man, coach thinks we got this. Like, we're going to go out there and execute.
Yeah.
So, but it's funny you said on Fridays, my walkthroughs, I take about 3 minutes on everything I feel good about, and about 17 minutes on the stuff, like you said, that I'm like, oh, I'm pretty worried about this stuff. Like that's how I am on Fridays.
That's awesome, man.
Yeah,
But yeah, it's crazy how we can all be different,
yeah,
different
yeah.
personalities. So, but coach, man, we're gonna get into segment one. We're gonna be talking about building offensive identity. And so when you build, your offense, like where do you actually start? Like, where's your 3-day process start when you're installing?
So the plays definitely can change year to year. I'm not necessarily married to one particular run scheme or pass scheme or whatever. The
Mhm.
way that we started each year is really with our players. Our number one philosophy on offense is feed the studs. So the best players
Love
get
it.
the ball the most. We're not we don't try to get equal touches for everybody. If it's a game that's maybe gotten out of hand or something like that, then we may try to throw a bone to some guys and get them involved in it. That may not get a whole bunch of touches otherwise, but I mean, if it's a big game and we play against a lot of really good teams in our region and in our state, I mean, our best players are going to be the guys who get the ball the most, and then so
Mhm.
we start with that, and then figure out what those guys' skill sets are. Can they help us in multiple spots? A big lesson I learned earlier in my career. If you have a dominant receiver, you better have a way to get him involved in the game. If he goes against the dominant corner that's maybe giving him a hard time, make sure he
Yes.
gets touches in other ways. And that was just through the school of hard knocks. We finished up a playoff game a couple of years ago in the semifinals, and we had a really good player and they had a really good player that mirrored him on the other side of the ball the whole game, and they just didn't get enough touches. And I feel like we could have done a better job get him the ball in other ways, So starting off with the players, and then, how does that match up with the formations that we feel best about? I mean, generally speaking, we try to stay in 11 personnel for the vast majority of the game. But that doesn't always work out year to year either. It was,
Mm-hmm.
a few years ago, I put my fist down in the offensive staff room, and I said, we're not going to be some kind of soft 10 personnel team, and I don't know if we were soft or not, but we were a 10 personnel
Yeah.
team. That's just the way that it ended up. We won a bunch of games, but it was not who I
Yeah.
want. It's not the way I envisioned it in June, and the plays are really the third part of it.
Mm-hmm.
We kind of look at it with each day, we're going to have one run scheme. Obviously that can involve a bunch of tags and a bunch of variations. So, some years we've been, inside and outside zone one day, and then, power counter your routine gap scheme stuff the next day. And the third day may be draw. Some years it may be, all we've had several years when we've ran no zone schemes. We've been man schemes, so ISO, dart, that kind of stuff. Gap schemes have always been in there for me, and probably always will. And it's really just what goes with those from year to year,
Sure.
And so, we're nothing that we do is schematically, I feel like is any different than a whole bunch of teams out there. I mean, I think it's really the way that we try to dress it up each week. And the plays, once the season gets started, really the plays do not change from week 0 to week 15.
Yep.
In my opinion, if you're having to come up with new plays later in the
You're
year,
reaching.
yeah, you are. That's
Yeah.
not going to be a fun night. We try to have
Sure.
our menu be things that are good against multiple fronts and multiple coverages. Obviously, some things are better against some looks than
Sure.
others. But I don't want to ever have a night where I feel like I'm having to make a perfect call every time. And because that's just not going to happen every single night.
No.
But that's kind of the way, it's 3 days, rinse and repeat all throughout the spring, all throughout our pre-spring practices, all throughout the summer. And then once we get in the season, that's really how we structure the early parts of practice, like our group run periods. Now we get to team, we practice everything that's in the game plan, depending on that day,
Right.
but the 3-day install carries over for the routes on air parts of practice, the scaly stuff, the more, individual and group work in the first, third of practice or so, that part of the 3-day install stays the same.
Yeah, and I like the way you kind of break that down in each kind of category with who you got and what you do with them. I'm still going to bring the defensive spin to the show, but I am coaching offense this year, and just the difference that I've kind of seen as we go through spring is from a defensive standpoint. When I'm thinking about what we do, it's about where are our best runners and pursuiters and tacklers, and how do we shape them from a personnel standpoint. But all I care about is what space are you going to create on offense? Like, are you
Yeah.
going to be in 10, 11, 20, 21? That's all. I don't care what play you're running. You can run 17 pass plays. I do not care. You know what I mean? But then offensively, it's kind of like, all right, man, we got to find out what can our kids do and what can they do vertically, horizontally. And then we also got to keep in the back of our mind, what coverages are we going to see throughout the year? Like you're saying, it's like we want to have those goody concepts. It's going to be good no matter what. But, are you seeing a lot of the odd quarter stuff? If so, we probably need to make sure that our offense is built. So it's so unique how each side of the ball, the planning and the start is so different.
Yeah.
Yeah, we can't just call base every play, Dustin. You know what I mean? Like you can't
Hey man,
just go out there, hey man, base, like whatever.
if you
dude.
watch
It's
this year, we
can't
yeah, we got out of base a little bit with those kids,
yeah.
but no.
Yeah.
Those guys could get after it. Go
I
get
didn't
them.
mean to interrupt, man, but dang, dude.
No. Hey man, yeah, you can call. You can just call inside zone bubble, man. Just call.
That's right. That's
See what
right. That's
happens.
right. But no,
But
it makes sense because and coach, just to kind of ask you this, like when those moments come up where like I've had those moments for sure as a, even now, like I feel like we didn't do enough of this or we didn't get the ball to this guy enough. Do you find yourself that next year trying to include maybe like, okay, we might need this down the road in your initial install? Because that's where I'm at now. Like I'm trying to do some different things that, because it's be my second year here, kind of knowing what the defense is doing in this area. I'm trying to
Mhm.
incorporate. Is that something that you also do, Coach?
Yeah, for sure. We really a lot of our work in the early summertime as a staff is going to be now. We do reclassifications every 2 years in Alabama, and
Mm.
so this coming season will be the first one of the next rotation. So several teams in our region we're very familiar with because there was some carryover from the last one, but there's I think 3 or 4 brand new teams that we haven't played ever or haven't played in several years. And with coaching changes and all that, I mean, right now we're honestly trying to dig up as much film as we can on those teams. And if there's been a coaching change, trying to look at, who's who's come from another place and trying to find the inside info on who's actually going to be calling the offenses and the
Yeah,
defenses.
man. Yeah.
We don't want to turn a film on a Sunday in September and be like, "Oh my gosh, I've never seen this before and I have no idea what to do with it." We try to at
Mhm.
least come up with some sort of game plans early in the summer on our first several opponents. And some of those will be non-region games and some of them will be region games here. So but yeah, we definitely try to look ahead and have at least a general idea of what we think we'll like when we're facing those kind of teams that we're not as familiar with.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and we've always kinda talked about having, like, a filing structure of the teams you play and the people you know, because like you
Mhm,
said, somebody might leave from this school and go to this school, and it's like, "Hey, let's just pull
mhm,
their old school up so we have an idea." And I think that's such an underrated part of it. It's like, we need to because especially from a defensive standpoint, if you're seeing 2 or 3 teams that are double tight, double wing, like, whether you want to or not, you got to prepare what is going to be our package with that, and
mhm.
you may see on offense, you may see those like psycho defenses where they stand everybody up and they just walk around, and so it's like, as much as we don't want to go against it, you don't get to choose that. So it's like, we got to make
Exactly.
sure, man, we got something in place for this. Coach, what would you say outside of scheme? What do you think every offense it takes to be an elite offense? Regardless of the plays and the players. What's your beliefs on that?
Yeah, no, I do. I mean, believe from my core that if you're going to win the 15th game of the year, you're going to have a strong run game that you're going to be able to lean on, especially down that playoff stretch. I've been pretty fortunate and been a part of several teams that end up getting rings at the end of the year, and that was the one thing. Those teams are all vastly different. We had 2 of those at Hoover, and we had one at Trinity and played for it a couple other times. It didn't come out on top in the finals, but the one thing that all those teams had in common was that, come November, those teams could run the football downhill at you.
Mhm.
And that wasn't always the case with them in week 0 and week 1 and week 2. That was the thing that had to be built kind of over time as we got to know the players better and as we could, tailor the game more so to their strengths and be able to also kind of stay away from their weaknesses as the season went around. So, I think sometimes I get the reputation of being like a passing game guy, and I enjoy that part of it for sure. But it's in my core that if you're going to win them all, you're going to have to be able to run it not just when you want to, but when you have to. When the other team thinks knows you're going to run it. And I think aside from that, it's really you better spend a significant amount of time developing your quarterback when it's not football season, and if we've had a lot of different types of guys in that position. Some have been one sport guys, some have been 2 or 3 sport guys. The big challenge is, when he's playing baseball in February and March and April. There's some other work that's got to be done in there with that guy. He can't be a guy
Yep.
that just rolls into it when the season starts and plays at a really high level. Because we do, we put a lot on our quarterback in different ways. So I think that off season development with the quarterback is crucial to any style of offense that I've ever been a part of.
For sure. And how much does your quarterback style shape your offense year to year? Do you have an idea who that guy's gonna be, and does that kinda dictate the plays because of that personnel piece that you'll
Yeah,
go into an install with?
For sure. It's definitely a lot more comfortable when you know pretty early who that's going to be. I've been a part of some of those where we've known well ahead of time. I've also been a part of where we have two guys fighting it out in August, and they're vastly different guys, and that puts you in a really tough spot. So
what is it when you got two, you got none?
that is true. That is true.
I don't know how true it is, but I've been there. Yeah.
Yeah, that's well. The thing with that is like I don't know how you can fully prepare any two quarterbacks to play on a Friday night. Like, there's not enough reps to go around.
No, there's not.
Our backup guy in the season, we do script a part of Wednesday practice where he gets one 5-minute period where he gets all the reps and he's running the whole show and doing the communication and all that. Aside from that, he really doesn't get that many reps during a normal game week. He'll get kind of a half a set of Skelly on one day, and he'll get a few plays in team another day. But I mean, hopefully he's doing a lot of work behind the other quarterback while the one guy's taking his reps and he's standing behind, and he's doing a good job of preparing in the meetings like he's supposed to. But you can fake that though sometimes as a backup quarterback. You can look like you're locked in and you're thinking about the butterfly that just floated outside the window or something. So but I mean, that's we luckily this year, when we have a returning starter that started for us as a sophomore last year, and for the previous 3 years before that, we had the same guy that came through, whose jersey's hanging on the wall back here behind me. But we've had other years where we had a run at Hillcrest where it was a run of 1-year starters back to back to back to back. And the good part about that is there was a lot of senior quarterbacks. The bad part was one of those guys. This is a really good story. This was 2017. Kid by the name of Colby Smelly was our quarterback that year, and I was at Hillcrest in Tuscaloosa. We were actually playing at Oxford that day, and so Colby didn't play when he was a 9th grader. Kind of came out as a 10th grader, and I just assumed that he'd played quarterback his whole life. So I could tell he was a little jittery before the game, and I was like, "Hey man, look, no reason to be nervous or anything. You've been doing this your whole life, man. Just let it rip like you have, when you're a little kid." He said, "Coach, I've never started a game at quarterback." And I was a tight end when I was in Little League. I was like, "All right, dude, well, good luck." I didn't.
That's wild. That's wild. Hey, have at it.
I did not know. Man. That game didn't go great for him, but we ended up in the semifinals that year.
Well, glad you didn't tell me that, because I'd have been a lot more worried, man, until this point.
Dustin, you remember back in it was 2017. No, it was 2017. Yeah. We had a quarterback leave. He transferred out, so that we were kind of stuck with I say stuck. These kids were good kids, but we were kind of with this receiver kid that we were developing all summer. Then another kid transfers in. Yeah, 10th grader.
He was a 10th grader.
It's wore 2 gloves, throw the ball. He's tough as nails though, man. I'm talking about tough. And but just small. And then we had another guy kind of transfer in later, almost in August, I believe, July. And so the guy that transferred in was better, but we had already kind of had everything built in. So they were kind of splitting reps all year. It'd be series after series after series. And we get down into a big region game and against Nation Ford. And end of the game, it's 3rd and I don't know. I think it's 3rd and 4. The 2-glove kid is rolling out, almost throws a pick, dude. I'm like, oh my gosh, we're fixing to lose this game. It's I don't know. I think we're down 4. End of the game. Anyway, we call timeout, just kind of settle everybody down. It's 4th down. We bring him over, and I'll never forget this, man. We say, all right, we're calling Missouri Z. It's just scissors, whatever. We got him. It's a perfect play, we said. And he looks straight dead in my eyes with this country accent and goes, "Coach, I can't make that throw." And so the backup, the backup, kind of the goofy kid that's much better, peeks out behind him and goes, "I'll do it." And so he gets in the game. Coach, I'm not lying. 3-step drop hitch, rips it, man. Touchdown, game winner. I've never seen anything like it in my entire life. It was wild, man. I was running in the end zone. And we still had time.
Kudos to the one kid for just being self-aware right there.
Yeah.
I mean, not everybody can do that.
Yeah, he's a tough kid. But dang.
Well, what's funny is actually I think he might have been a junior, Jamie, that year, because the following year was his senior year.
He was, yeah,
and he played a senior, and he was a backup on defense. And that same kid who came in and threw the touchdown was the starter the following year. But we were much better because that other kid was out at receiver. And the starter got hurt and he had to play quarterback for us for 3 games. And
and won all three.
He brought a different dynamic because he was more of a runner. So everybody wasn't prepared for that when we hit conference. And it was what a great kid, though. Yeah, but man,
I can't make that throw.
It's funny, Coach. Man, you talk about reps, and I would say that's the hardest thing. The hardest thing is being aware enough to make sure that the guys you're dependent on Fridays is getting the majority, but also making sure you balance that those guys who may have to go in there if something happens. What's funny, I'm an AD, and I'll share a little story. I got an email the other day that the third string player wasn't getting any reps during the pregame warm-up. I was just reading the emails as a football coach going, my second string quarterback don't get no reps when we warm up. Let's let the third string, he might not even dress out. What you talking about? But it's
That's
just
wild, man.
That's
wild.
It is what it is. But that's a tough part of it, man. It's a tough part of it.
It is. On the warm up kind of part, when I was at Hoover, I actually coached receivers, and that's a big school, ton of kids. Our roster was, it was huge, but we had a lot of really good football players. We had a lot of kids out there that love being on the football team and want to be a part of it. And, those kids are great too. But, we had some of them that played receiver. It's kind of, if you weigh under a certain number, your last stop may be receiver on the field. You know what I mean? Like, if you weigh over a certain number, you're probably going to end up at offensive line. If you weigh under a certain number, you're probably going to end up at receiver or DB. But anyway, a few of those guys, my policy in 2012 and 2013 was this: like, we're doing ball drills and warm ups. I'm like, you got one shot, bro. Like, you catch it, you're getting the next ball. If you drop that first one, you're getting the pump fake, and the next guy's going to go. Like, we're not breaking
the pump fake. Oh my word, I've never heard.
Yeah. They do the routine.
Those kids, the drop.
If they drop that first one, the next time through, I'd pump fake it. They would give me the hands. They would act like they were looking it in. They'd go get back in line.
I'm using that, man. That is wild.
Jamie, we put perfect or settling noose is what some people call it in. And if they don't put because we don't do it with the quarterbacks, we do it to start Indy. If they don't extend their hands from their body, I just stare at them. I'm not throwing you the ball. Move. Get out the way. Next guy up.
That's what we have. We have to make them we say give a target, and the quarterbacks know not to throw unless they get a target.
Unless they get it.
That's awesome. That's awesome. All right, man. So let's talk a little bit about let's go into installing like quarterback development now that we're kind of on that quarterback topic. So so how do you teach quarterbacks to think maybe more than just memorize your system?
Sure. So we have a lot of this there's definitely some semantics involved in this, but I mean, really, no matter what kind of route combination that we have up for the quarterback, we say there's 3 reads for them. There's 3 read types. Okay. And that's really what we call concepts for them. There's 3 concepts. So at the end of the day, we're trying to do one of 3 things. We're trying to create a one-on-one and give our receiver multiple break options. We call those object concepts or object reads for the quarterback. So think seam reads have always been huge for us. Like, when I talk about 4 verticals, it's really seam reads. Well, that could be like what most people call deep choice on the outside. That could be, depending on the year, some kind of a quick game option route inside. But everything we structure around that route that has multiple break options is really just to ensure we get a one-on-one right there. And if they're giving us, that doesn't necessarily mean the ball's going to that guy, obviously, but that's what we're trying to accomplish. So the next type of read is we call it a stretch, what most people just call a horizontal stretch. So curl flat read, slant bubble, slant flat, an inside out where we're trying to create 2 receivers on 1 defender. And then we have high lows, which are obviously the same kind of thing, just stacked the other way. Okay. We're trying to create a 2-on-1 high and low. And then obviously we have different route structures built in there that can be combinations of those, like the snag, for example. I mean, that's a high low on the outside and that's a stretch read on the inside. And then we can kind of layer those things too. For example, let's say if we're in a 3-by-1 and we may go, maybe snag over here. And that's not usually what we do in this kind of concept, but just for one that everybody kind of knows what that means. And then if we have one-on-one on the X side, maybe we're giving that guy a deep choice.
Yeah.
So, we can layer those any way we want. And if we do, we don't necessarily, like I said, our plays don't change in that way. Now, we may add a tag or make something look different, but at the end of the day, that should be the first question our quarterback asked. If I just draw any route up on the board, he should say, all right, what kind of concept is it? And then he should understand what that picture looks like that we're trying to accomplish. So, but from a quarterback standpoint, that's really the whole game for us in the passing game. Um, and then, we kind of, you said you had Dearman on the show before. A lot of our RPO game is really centered in stuff I learned from him several years ago. Is it a C gap read? Is it a D gap read? And then we kind of go from there, and have ways to just handle who that extra fitter is, that's coming in the box in the run game. So, but that's how we feel like we can make the through formations and tags and that kind of stuff, make it our package look a whole lot bigger than it really is, as long as the quarterback has a great understanding of, what those three things are that we're trying to accomplish for him.
Yeah, I really like that, coach. I really like the
Me
way
too.
you categorize it. Obviously, quick games can be horizontal or vertical stretches that happen within a certain time on the timeline, which is really,
Mhm.
like you said, like sticks a great one, double slants a great one. We do a
Mhm.
condensed quick smash, which is a really, really great one. And it's kind of
Mhm.
like we don't want to give the defender time to make a choice. It's kind of like we're just going to go off of what he does. But I like the way that the quarterback's coming up to the line and he's thinking, is this a horizontal, vertical, or one-on-one? And like you said, you
I
combine
do
them
too.
together. I really like
Mhm.
the way you described that just now.
Yeah, I think like Dustin's saying, like we're such a we have like this quick game package that's we have like intermediate on the backside, so like all flows
Sure.
within the same timeline like most teams probably would. We don't do much, we don't do anything mirrored, but but what I can probably start doing now, kind of talking to you about this, like he knows what smash is, he knows like what skiff beaters are, like what that would be like your snag concept, like the
Mhm.
interior horizontal stretch. And so I think I could start to work those like this is that style of beater. And I think too, having that mindset, like even for me when I kind of learned this system or this thought process, it's allowed me to develop more things in the pass game that I otherwise wouldn't, as maybe like an air raid guy would, like these not
Yeah.
necessarily cookie cutter, but have you experienced that too, where you're kind of more like, I maybe be able to dabble here because it fits in one of these categories?
Yeah, for sure. So we've really with the quarterback that we have right now, this offseason, we really dove into a lot of the R4 terminology,
Hmm.
and that's really helped him out as far as tying his feet and his eyes together and knowing when to move on in the progression. Last year was his first year as a starter. I mean, statistically, he was very productive, but I don't feel like I did a good enough job of creating a language that he fully understood and
Mm.
could apply on a Friday. And I'd been aware of that, earlier in my career, and had kind of gone in some different directions over time. And and each kid is different. I
Yes,
mean, the same verbiage for our next kid may not hit home the way it did for this one.
certainly.
You got to really be aware of what kind of learning style you're dealing with there. But he's really taken to that with the whole the rhythm read rush kind of idea, and that I think that fits in really well a lot of times with like the kind of stuff that you're talking about, where you may be bringing another concept from the backside into the quarterback's vision.
Yeah.
We've had times where we've been pretty heavy into like the Dan Gonzalez kind of verbiage with the advantage concept, third fix.
Mm, mhm.
That's really hit home with some of the quarterbacks. So the trick's finding what he feels good about early on, and then sticking with it where he doesn't feel like you're changing up what you're teaching him. You know.
Exactly. Yeah, this is my second year with this kid too, and he's very smart. And so, when we went to the R4, like I was so kind of hesitant. I was air raid, and I was very hesitant to like change anything from that, as a
Yeah.
younger coach. And because it's successful, it's a great, great offensive system and structure.
Mhm.
But this allowed me to be able to teach the quarterback more than just like have fast feet, like foot fire, and then like read through a progression. And
Yeah.
and so what you're talking about too is like it's giving you a language to go through and say, hey, like, I can talk to the quarterback about timing where maybe it's harder to have. It's like, I know coaches think, okay, that ball's coming out late, but like, it's hard to maybe articulate why that is to the kid in real time. But for
Mhm.
us, like today, we're running like, 4 strong spacing and it's coming out a little bit late on the sit route. And so we're taking a full three and then hitching up and then throwing the sit. Well, all I got to do is tell my quarterback, hey, man, let's do a quick three. I think he's getting there on time, on rhythm. And now that
Mhm.
quick three is allowing us to actually get to our read route on time.
On
And he's like,
time.
Coach, that makes a lot of sense. And then so now your quarterback, and I'll start giving the quarterback freedom. It'll be like, all right, man, you know who's running the 6-step corner? He's much faster than our H back. So instead of a full three or a punch three, now we're running a quick three. Or even sometimes if they're really fast, you got to get like a punch one or a two
Yeah,
step in.
about to say
So
2-step.
I love those. I love those little nuances, and that just makes I mean, it just looks a lot more crisp, and it gives us a language to dial in. So shameless plug. Reach out to Dub,
No
reach out to
doubt.
us, but
Well, it's like,
definitely get into R4.
to your point, Jamie, we're in spring. This is my first year coaching offense in 4 or 5 years. And, you got those rising ninth graders that come up, they have to practice on a separate field. They don't have helmets and some stuff. So, we split practice half and half right now. So all the guys that go through offense in the spring varsity, while the rising ninth graders are going with the defensive staff will flip. And I was just working with the young quarterbacks and we're just working rhythm corner routes, 6-step corner routes, and going through the drops with them. And then we'd work some seams and then we'd work comebacks. And it's just, they were understanding like this, associating the
Mhm.
drop, the timing, and why they were missing the throw. And like
Yep.
watching them day 1, day 2, day 3, like, man, they're just dropping rhythm corners in the basket every time. And I'm just like, it is just, it's so crazy, the social proof of the R4 in live time with brand new kids who've never heard of it. And we haven't even talked about anything R4. We just have associated drops, terminology, and routes. And
Yep.
and and
Mhm.
it so it man, it's like you said, shameless plug. Thanks, Dub. Appreciate it.
Thanks,
We
Dub.
we actually had an interesting one pop up this morning. It was a good mistake to have. We were working in kind of a condensed set, like kind of like the old school, like the old '96, all curl. Yeah,
Mhm.
Hank. There you go, Hank.
Mhm.
So the bad part on the quarterback's end was he took the wrong drop. He took we punch step pretty much everything at Oxford. He took a punch one. All right. And he got off. The ball should have gone to the inside curl there. All right, which we run that at like 6 to 8 yards. So that's our rhythm route.
Mhm.
So he took the punch one. That route wasn't ready for the ball, and he came off of it. And even though that route was the one that was open, but it wasn't open on time, he went to the next read. He ended up throwing the rush route late. But the good part of the error was he knew because of his footwork, he had already hit the top of his drop, and he couldn't wait on that route anymore. Now, if
Yep.
we get him taking the right drop, now we're cooking with grease, right? But he was, I was encouraged by the mistake that he was made and why he made it, and
I love
I
that.
thought he did some good progress, really.
And it's really interesting to see other teams, even in the, like the higher levels too, that seem not to really have. It doesn't look like there's really a system in play, or even have like rhythm routes like in their offense, and it's
Yeah,
like, but they still kind of get it done. So it's like it's definitely an interesting thing. It certainly helped me, but I love hearing those and hearing the quarterbacks, like it's like a toolbox that they could use and they can kind of self correct. But
yeah.
um,
That peeve of mine, that just thinking about stuff you see on other levels, you see it every week on a Saturday. The team will free release the back over here, and the quarterback will look this way and get drilled right in the back of the head by a blitzer. I'm like, guys, what are we doing? How can you start your eyes away from a free
yes,
release 5-man protect?
100%, one
I'm
hundred
like, this
percent.
dude's making $1 million that's calling the plays. I
Yeah.
mean, goodness, we got to give
People
him
ask me all the time. They say, "Coach, now you have concepts and it may be a word, whatever that word is, and every position has a route. Why do you have a direction to it?" So that sets the protection, the man
Mhm,
side of the protection. And
mhm.
well, why do we have to set the man side a certain way, Coach? Well, because that's where the quarterback's eyes are going to be at the beginning of the snap of the play. You want to
Yes.
see the third rusher if you're in 5-man. I
Mhm.
even like to have the quarterback look to the man side on 6-man protection because the back is in
Yeah,
protection. You're not really sliding. So
right.
it's just, or they're going to bring 4 to the back side or whatever it is. Like,
Mhm.
so that's just, yeah, I think those are little things that I've picked up on. Like, thankfully, that I picked up on that from a pass protection standpoint because, yeah, you avoid some of those things. So, yeah, definitely, definitely. So we've talked about drops a little bit. Like, have you kinda gone into, how do you get them to, like, see what's open and all that stuff? How do you do the vision decision piece in your with your quarterbacks?
Yeah, I mean, that was something that I don't feel like I was all that good at, especially early on in my career. I just assumed that they knew what that should look like.
Mhm,
That he's open or he's not open, and either throw it to him or go to the next guy. And it's really not that. It's not that easy, at all. We try to. I think the first step of that is having a knowledge of what coverages are. We do teach them the specific coverages early on, like, in the terminology of sometimes what our defense calls them. Most of the time, that's the way it is. Sometimes it's a little bit different, but what they have to really know in the game is it man or zone, and if it is zone on the side that I'm working, is the corner going to be in bail? uh, to
mhm,
understand what kind of stretch you're gonna get on the underneath coverages there, to know, what we're getting in the concepts. So, um, from that point on, then we then start talking about in zone coverages mostly, hip angles and what the space is gonna likely be between the zone droppers, right? I mean, and from a 500-foot view, if it's zone coverage, we're trying to throw it in between guys, and if it's man coverage, we're trying to run away
mhm.
from guys, right?
Exactly.
So, um, and that, if it's man coverage, the main thing he needs to know is first is who are our guys?
Mhm.
Who are the man? Because I mean, we have really good football players at Oxford, and very rarely do we have four receivers or three if we're in 11 personnel that are really good at defeating man coverage on a regular basis. If we have two, that's pretty good. You know, uh, just like most defenses out there, they really don't have four guys that can really cover man either. So,
Right.
that works that works both ways. When you get in the season, you better know who you're playing against too.
Exactly.
So, but that's the kind of the knowledge of the coverage is at first, and then when we really boil it down, because I mean on a Friday night, I don't care if he really knows, like, if it was quarter, quarter, half. He needs to know on that side of the field it was quarters.
Right.
On this side of the field, if I'm looking that way, then it was. He doesn't need to know the whole picture. You know what I'm saying?
Mhm. Yep.
Um, and he's not going to know that in live action. So we have gotten into this off season doing some VR kind of stuff, and that was. I mean, that's part of what we invested in with some of the R4 stuff. That whole the training program that comes along with that, and that's just gotten him a lot more reps. We're hoping now to get into where we actually have soon enough get the GoPro or whatever on
Yep.
on his helmet, to where we can do it based off of our practice.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I mean, I think you got to attack it in as many ways as possible. And there's video work, there's board work, there's book work, there's the old, like the pulling out the checkers kind of stuff,
Mhm. Yep.
on something on a table. I mean, all those guys learn in such vastly different ways, and um, the hardest part is helping them see it through their face mask. You know, and I
Yes.
think the VR part of it is so important.
Yeah, so shout out to Dub again, R4 command board.
Yeah.
I knew you're I was
It's
gonna
so
say it if you didn't
it's
say it.
so funny. None
Yeah.
of this is planned
Like,
either.
this
Like
is
this
not
is
No,
this
even
is
an
no.
awesome.
idea.
But it was funny. I called Jamie about 3 months ago. Said, "Hey man, I want some meta glasses, but they only record in portrait mode." I said, "So that's an issue. I can't really
Mm,
watch it." I slept on it for a month, 2 months. I was driving down to the beach for a golf trip 2 weekends ago. I called Jamie. I said, "Hey man, I'm pulling the trigger, dude. I don't really
Man,
need
you
them,
should
but
have
I'm
worn
getting
a
them."
night, man. You should
But
have
yeah,
worn a night.
but like to your point, coach, I told Jamie, I was like, I bet if you put those on and you stood behind your
Mhm.
quarterback and you sent him the clips on his phone, it would allow him to see the cap at his vision, like literally
yeah.
what he is seeing. Um, because we can sit there all day and try to put him in drills to help him with the cap, but like we're not standing in the pocket with him. Like we
Mm-mm.
we don't see the exact angle. But coach,
No.
the one thing to add on to what you said, which everything you said I thought was genius, you know, not to give away Dove stuff, but there's a line that separates horizontal and vertical space. So I
Mhm.
think working with quarterbacks and receivers, it's like understand the two type of defenders there is, cushion and collision. Are they going to disrupt you, or are they going to make sure they don't get beat vertically? And understand where they align based on the coverages they like to run. And I think that's what you were getting to and everything. And I think putting in drills where you're going to see their two most common things and just repping it over and over. Like you said, like, especially if you're working a quick game on one side and you anticipate throwing that all night, we don't really care what's on that backside because the
Right.
way the game plan's worked out. But no, that's
Like
great stuff.
the way that we've been doing routes on air is we'll go like half line. We'll do half line, and we'll do double slant, and I have a one of our coaches playing the star, and we just rep it over and over, and we're working hip angles, and then we'll have, stick, and we got coach playing the star, and then we got a coach playing the mic, and he's having to push out there, and we're making sure we're pushing away from the mic. I think those things, what I've gotten away from, like just the whole like cascade of like throwing routes and routes and routes, which that's probably beneficial to some degree, but I don't even do it anymore. Even with my ninth grade quarterbacks, like we go
Yep.
straight into half line, and then we'll do a full field read where we'll do one quarterback's throwing, the double slant. The other quarterback is looking through that, hitching up, and then going post wheel on the backside.
Mhm.
And so just little things that with the hip angle for vision decision is so critical with quarterbacks these days. I think that can set them apart for sure.
Yeah, and I mean, I think any as many live reps as they can get making a
Mhm.
decision on the field, the better. I mean, obviously, classroom's a big training tool, but they got to be able to do it on the grass.
Yes.
That was part of the issue with like in 2017, the kid I was talking about earlier that had never started before, and we hit a part late in the summer, and he was like, "Coach, we just stop doing 7-on-7. Like that's fine. I need like rushers in front of me. Like
Love it.
I get it in 7-on-7, but I need to
The
be able to
bullets.
I need to be able to work the pocket in there.
Yep.
And I thought that was pretty mature of him to say that. Some kids would probably want to shy away from that a little bit, but he owned it.
Do
So
you do a lot of 7 on like in season, or you do more of like team pass type?
w- we both. We do most of our 7 right now in spring practice. We get our ones get 8 snaps of 7-on-7, and we move along. We're trying to emphasize the
Mhm.
contact part of the game. But
Mhm.
when we're in June, we'll probably then those guys will get maybe 16 to 24 reps with our one group of 7-on-7. When we get in the season, that probably goes back to about 8 per day
Mhm.
again. And it's more in the team kind of settings.
Yeah.
Yes.
And
Yeah,
I
we've kinda
like
gone away from team like 7-on-7, like in season.
mhm.
We do team pass and try to work
Yeah,
all the stunts and blitzes that we can, especially on
Yep.
Wednesday, but even during the week, like if they're a first and second down stunt or blitz team, that's when we're gonna show it. And,
Yep.
I hate getting comfortable back there. I'm with you,
Yeah.
coach.
yeah,
Yeah, I think the way I've liked doing it on offense in the past is Monday is 7-on-7 because I want them to
Mm.
understand the actual cap, like kind of that mental
Mhm.
day. But then Tuesday's what we call pass shoot or half line, where we're going to bring, we're going to put 2 linemen up and they might work the man side, or we'll put 3 linemen up and they work the gap side. And but
yeah,
but as far as defensively goes, I hate going team pass because we don't ever get a look on the back end. You got the scout
yeah,
well up there who doesn't give you a look, and it's like,
yeah,
man, we're going 7-on-7 every day
I
on
agree.
defense.
Yeah, yeah, that's a great
Yeah,
point. Yeah, like you need 7-on-7 so the for the opposite reason.
yeah.
yeah,
Whereas
Yes,
yeah,
yes,
for us, we
yes,
need it like we want the ears pinned back on team pass, so it makes it hard for us to protect, and all the coaches
yes.
are mad with like, I'd rather work against that than
yeah,
work against, you know what I mean? Like make it
Yeah,
harder on us a little bit.
yeah.
agreed.
I think good value in like especially the early part of the year meaning like from the spring on of
Mhm.
getting 7-on-7. I do think sometimes your quarterback he needs to see it go through the net. You know what I mean?
He does,
He, he
100%.
needs
Yep.
to know, he needs to know in a perfect world what this
I
rhythm's going
love
to
yeah.
be.
Yeah,
But
Yep.
yeah,
sometimes that's not really the way the game's played on Fridays. But he needs to have some confidence in that early
Yes,
on.
sir. Yep.
agreed. All right, coach, we're going to kind of move into the last segment. It's more around play calling and game day. And, we're just going to right out the gate. When you get into a game and your first 2 drives of the game, what are you trying to learn immediately when you're calling plays?
So we try to be varied formation wise, and we try to just number one confirm what we thought our main looks were gonna be. we're trying to do that while we get the most touches for the best guys. So the way we've done our opening script part of our game plan process for us has been Wednesday night. So we've already been through the whole game plan in practice one time. We've seen, how everything's looked, what we feel good about, what we maybe think's a little bit more work. But then we'll kind of go through, and most years we've done it like this, where we have each coach kind of suggest a play. We got a pretty big staff, so we do 8 on our opening script, 8 plays, and the play caller, he gets the final. So not 8 of those always make it in there. Now, they're suggestions, but we have the list of suggestions that are on the board, and then we go through and put in a red marker what jersey numbers of our guys are the most likely guys to touch the ball. So, last year we had a great receiver, Jalen Taylor. That's, one of the top guys in 6A the last 2 years. He's going to Memphis. He's a really good player. He was number 1. So if we went through all of those open script suggestions and the jersey number 1 only popped up like twice, then we were erasing some and starting over. Like, nope, that ain't it, So, but those are the main 2 things I'm trying to look at: touches for the best guys, confirming what we think the defense is going to be giving us, finding some easy throws for the quarterback to get him going.
Yes.
Some years it's been find a way to get that quarterback a run and get him hit, and get his blood flowing a little bit, And there's typically going to be one in those first 8 where we're trying to go over the top, just to try to get it going as fast as we can in there.
Heck yeah.
So that's kind of the formula that we have followed on that.
Yeah, we've been very similar. Like, I think I usually do 10 to 12. And again, I've learned a long time ago, like you're saying, Coach, like, get your guys the ball the easiest way possible. And it's not always easy to do that. Obviously they're playing varsity football too. Like they're out there, they know who your guys are. So kind of getting creative some with me, I think, early, and getting those guys a touch, especially if we have a lot of 2-way guys too, but like, getting those guys lathered up early before they get dang tired. It's like, man, if you can get them 10 touches in the first half, man, that's awesome. That'll be ideal. If you could really do that, that's hard to do, but I love it.
Man,
love it.
I would say, like you said, Coach, coming from the defensive side, any offensive guys listen, take the shots. Every 6 or 7 plays, take a shot, man, because right now I can't tell you how many times last year nobody would take a shot, and it's like you can just be so much more aggressive, and it's like then we played a team where it felt like they were taking a shot every 5 plays, and I'm like, oh, easy now, easy, It's just, and I think that's going to make me a better offensive coach because I probably didn't do a good enough job doing that, and some of that's on your personnel. You got to have a guy to go get the shot, you know what I mean? Like if we got a kid who's running a post route and it takes him about 6 seconds to get out there, well,
I like to air that thing out early too. I like airing it out like backed up. What's Bobby Bowden? What'd he say? Hey man, hold on tight, man. Somebody's fixing to score.
We actually had this year. I've wanted one of these my whole career and finally got it. We had a 99-yard touchdown pass.
Heck yeah, man.
Love that.
The team bringing the house. You threw it deep, man.
We went. We were like 2-by-1. We went 7-man protection, and it was the deep choice with the single receiver and with the slot. So we were going based off of the safety rotation. So they doubled the kid that I was just talking about that's going to Memphis. They doubled him as the single, and then our slot guy just ran by the quarter safety that was sitting kind of flat-footed and took it to the house. And that was the only time in my career I've ever gotten one of those.
Wow. That's freaking awesome. I tried, man. I haven't gotten one yet. I had we had a long, like 90-something yard run this past year, but it's because like Packer bounced and it wasn't a clean look. So I can't even use it like in a clinic. It's like it just bounced and our guy just ran by everybody.
When I played at Limestone, we were on the -1, and we had like a run play called, but the quarterback's live number was 7. So 90 series was just like mirrored, like fade out or whatever. And so when he goes 793, he repeats it twice. I'm supposed to check as the center, red or blue for slide protection. So he gets through it first, 793, and like I'm still like figuring out who we're blocking, and the guard's like, "Yo, what are we doing?" And then he just calls it for me. We threw a 99-yard fade touchdown. I was like, "Hey, brother, appreciate that."
Sick, man.
But yeah,
that's freaking awesome.
Great story, man. Great story.
Let's talk about Alabama. So, like, what are you guys seeing in Alabama, like defensively? Like, really, we're not really familiar at all with Alabama, but, like, talk
Yeah.
about what you guys are seeing, like, defensively and then maybe, like, some offensive tendencies and stuff that you guys are seeing in state.
Yeah, sure. It's, so we're in what's now 5A. So we used to have 7 classes in Alabama. This past realignment, there was like a public-private deal, and they're
Mhm,
saying it's not a split, but it looks like a split to me. Whatever. But so we no longer have 7A. We have 6 is our top class. So we're in 5, and that we do have the defending state champs in our region. So I mean, there's a
mhm,
lot of high level football that's played on our schedule every year. We see everything under the sun over the course of the year. I think what is the best teams out there in our state are multiple and seem to do things defensively in threes, which I think is very wise. So it's never from a game plan standpoint, you say, all right, we're going to get an even front or an odd front. It's going to be even odd or bare, or any
mhm.
kind of mix and match of those. And the coverages, they kind of, and I don't even know if they do it on purpose, pattern that I've picked up over time with the best defenses out there, aside from having really good players. I mean, obviously that's
Yeah,
part of
yeah,
it,
for sure.
but having 3 possible looks to the main stuff that you're gonna give them, seems to be a common thread. And so it's not like I could say we see a lot of just this one thing over the course of the year. I mean, it's gonna be even, it's gonna be odd, it's gonna be stack. Some teams major in the bare or tight kind of front.
Mhm,
We see it all, offensively, uh, I think most teams in the higher levels are at least formationally look kind of similar. You know, I,
yep,
I really think as everything goes in cycles, um, a few years ago, I didn't think I'd ever say this, but I mean, I think there's great value in coming out of the huddle now. And
mhm,
not in a tip, and unless you're trying to just go at a breakneck speed and get like one word calls and go, 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 go. I think if you're just at the normal kind of, like we've called it glide tempo in the past, where we're just signaling in plays, we're not trying to go super fast. We're just kind of in our comfort zone. I think at this point, that's most defenses' comfort zones too,
yes,
and they can kind of see what the formation at least is going to start out at before,
mhm,
I've motion out of it. But I think they can become comfortable in that way too. So I think what we're starting to see more and what we're looking at more is varying our tempos in ways that we haven't in the past. So normal kind of tempo, like we said, mixed with some one word stuff, quick breaks out of the huddle, everything that we can do to just manipulate the time frame a little bit that a defense has to make their communication is really what I'm
mm,
saying. So
mhm,
I think, I mean, going fast is really good. I've never been great. There are some teams in Alabama that are really great at going fast and being multiple. I have not. That's not been a strong point for me. We've been
mm,
fast and simple, or we've been multiple and a little slower.
yeah,
Um, but if you can just make that huddle call, get to the line of scrimmage quick, then I think that has to speed up the defense's communication greatly. And they don't know what that formation is going to be as fast as they do if you're no huddle.
yeah,
So I
and
just
that's
think
how,
everything's just working in cycles.
yeah,
mhm,
that's
yep,
how Michigan beat Alabama a couple years ago. I remember,
Mhm.
I
they
think one
huddle,
of Saban's last year, he was like, "Man, at halftime, he's like, man, we're struggling to get the call on alignment in because they're breaking the huddle," which
yep,
is
Yeah.
it's just crazy how football evolves. It's crazy how it's like it used to be just go fast, man, and they can't get lined up, and now it's like, hey, slow it down, huddle, and just break and make the mental recognition. You know, that's how
Yeah.
tight ends get hidden. Like it's crazy,
Yeah.
but
yeah,
Yeah.
we actually did a little muddle last year with just our quarterback, H back, and running back and line. The
Yeah.
the other the other guys got lined up, and that helped us a little bit because you don't know if it's gonna be 2 by 2, 3 by 1, H back, whatever it is, but we were able to
Yeah.
break super quick, and the reason we did that is because we had a really young team, and I
Yeah.
thought the communication was a lot better up front, with
Mhm.
with all that, so
100%. 100%. I
yeah,
know, some guys when we used to kind of be several years ago in the Tony Franklin sort of deal, I know that their clinics, they would have like their offensive line knew if they were trying to go super fast, and they basically had a way where there was no calls involved. Like it was just true tracking it out. And I think they were doing it mostly off of like old, like stretch, like not like wide zone, like old school stretch, like get to the
Mm-hmm.
sideline. But they knew if they did it in a tempo way that they took all the calls off and they're basically just tracking it out,
Wow.
But that definitely is a problem when your offensive line is trying to make calls and your quarterback's trying to speed the thing up and, and they end up kind of getting in a
Going
little,
slow anyway.
yeah, yeah. I
You
mean,
you lined up fast just to wait.
yeah, yeah. That definitely can
Yeah, that's
happen.
how we are sometimes. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. Jamie, you want to hit a rapid fire?
Yeah, we'll hit a rapid fire. All right,
Let's
coach,
do it.
what's the best trait in a quarterback?
Decision making.
Mhm.
100%,
Yep.
100%. I put accuracy right behind that, but decision making would definitely be number one.
That's
Yep.
in both the run and pass game too, and I know
100%.
that's what you mean. And
Yeah.
it's even, like, the good decisions on how to even treat people. Like, did you make a
Oh, yeah.
good decision? You threw your hands up when the dude dropped the ball?
Mhm.
Not a good decision, pal.
Yeah. Yeah, that's
Did you
right.
yell at the offensive line?
Well, and
Yeah.
knowing, I mean, this could be an hour-long conversation. I know this is the opposite of rapid fire, I guess, but
Nah,
I
that's
mean,
good. Let's
being
roll.
able to lead in a way that you're not berating your teammates, correct them
Yes.
in a way that they feel like you're with them. I think that's
Mhm.
coaching too, but as a quarterback, that's a for high school kids in general at any position, but that's a hard line to kind of toe. To be able to
It is.
not be afraid to open your mouth and hold your teammates accountable. But when you do it in a way where you're not chewing them out, not
Mhm.
Yeah.
berating at the same time.
Yep.
So,
Yeah.
It's a
You
hard
make them
skill.
where they want to listen to you,
Mhm.
correct.
that's, yeah. Yeah. Coach, what
Hmm.
do you
Yeah.
think is, one of the most common mistakes that you see young OCs make, or maybe that you made early on in your career as an OC?
Uh, too many plays, too many schematic ideas. And I think it's better to know what you're doing, know what the weaknesses of it, know what the strengths of it are, know how to fix it when it's broken. Um, and to me, that becomes exponentially harder as you add more stuff.
Yes.
So
Yes.
I mean, I don't ever go into any game thinking that I want that other coach to say, "God, Coach Adams just comes up with like all these great plays." Like that's not a goal whatsoever. I want him
Mhm.
to say he keeps running the same crap and we can't do anything about it.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
what I
Man,
want him
you're
to think.
speaking my language, man.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like, every year I would see all these Dan Casey freaking videos. I'm like, "Man, I'm
That's
a
it.
loser. I'm a
That's it.
loser, man. I run stick the same way every freaking year." But you know what? It's
Yeah.
been our best concept. It's
Yeah.
Yeah.
like,
I get
or
that
like,
email every morning though. I check it
I'm
every
like, "Man,
morning.
I'm a loser." But
Yeah.
really, it's about execution, man. You're right, coach.
Yeah.
It's like,
Yeah.
if you go out and execute it and then, year to year, you may dress it up some, but at the end of the day, man, like, we're probably gonna continue to run what we feel comfortable coaching,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
Yeah.
because our kids will feel that too. But
Because I
well
like,
Yeah.
said, man.
and to your point, coach, I like, all right, we're going to have 3 goody concepts and 2 goody run concepts, which means it don't matter what you come out in, we're going to run those 5 plays. And then
Mhm.
you have those plays where, okay, this is the way maybe they play their leverages or technique in this specific coverage where we can run maybe this play or this play to really attack this team. And then you
Yep.
have like your fire hydrant plays, like, okay, what happens if they say, screw it, we're going to press play 0-1 and we're just going to send, it's like, that's kind of how
Yeah.
I've been thinking about
Yeah.
how do you shape your play call? Like, and
Mhm.
honestly, if our 3 goody pass plays can't work, I don't know what else we're going to run because they're designed to beat everything we go against. So if we can't read the cap and make the right decision and get the ball where it needs to be, it's going to be a
Yep.
long night, whatever play we call. So I think,
Yeah.
as an OC, I guess, and the R4 helped me learn this, your adjustment play doesn't necessarily need to be a brand new play. It may just need to be a brand new tag or adjustment
Mhm.
that helps with the personnel that's messing up the original play.
Yeah. Yeah.
100%.
Yep.
And having plays that are in a series also,
Yes.
that is huge. No, I don't want any one play to just exist in this vacuum all by itself. There's always got to be a logical thing that you would get to next, whether that's getting deep into the RPO game or whether that's adding a double move or adding
Yes.
a quarterback run aspect to it, whatever it is, but having a simple way that your kids feel comfortable about where it's not just, well, if they run this look against this play, now we got to take our marker and just scratch that out on the game plan, because that's not necessarily the way it should work,
Yeah.
Well,
That's
if anybody
a
needs
lot of
help
wisdom.
naming those series, call Jamie. Because that
nerd.
man, like Jamie, give him the
I'm a
whole
nerd.
like.
I'm just such a nerd when it comes to that. But
we had ones a verbiage thing. We had to kind of backpedal on it a little bit, but we're talking like wide zone. So this year it was going to be like wide zone to a 3-man surface was going to be Larry to the left and Reggie to the right, like Larry Bird, Reggie Miller, 3-man surface. Those guys shot threes, right?
Love it.
Then to a 2-man surface, it was going to be Wilt to the left and Kareem to the right. They're post
I
players,
like that.
Yeah.
But then, so we get into that, and then like I'm a few minutes
That's
in.
deep down the rabbit hole there, dude. You're talking about like
players, their eyes were just glazed over. I was like, y'all know who Reggie Miller is? They're like, no. We have no.
They don't know about the elbow. They don't know about the elbow
that's
being
right.
wide, man.
And our signal was going to be this.
He choked.
Just like, but they had no clue what any of it
We're
was.
too Gen X for that, man.
I know. So we had to back off of that. That's not what we ended up settling on, but but that's,
man.
I
like
it.
that stuff though.
Yeah, that's good.
Yeah,
that's neat.
I was so fired up to start the meeting, and I was just deflated. Way down.
That's awesome, Coach. Man, this has been a fun one. This is probably one of the most fun ones we've ever done.
Yeah,
man.
it's been great. It's been great.
But man, we appreciate it. We're not keeping you more, man. It's been over an hour. I know everybody's got to get into bed, but we sincerely appreciate your time, Coach, and best of luck this year. Go take one home.
Yeah, likewise, man. Enjoyed it. Thank y'all for having me.
Appreciate you,
sir.
Thanks, Coach.
See you guys in the next one.
Thanks for tuning into the Coach Speak podcast. If you're interested in being a guest speaker on the show, we'd love to hear from you. Email us at coachspeakpodcast1@gmail.com. And if you have a question for our Q&A segment, don't forget to submit it through the form in the episode description. We appreciate your support, and we look forward to seeing you in the next episode.